Years into our democracy, there's now a claim the original designer of the country's flag is not the former state herald Frederick Brownwell, who passed away a few months ago. Hastings Mqhayi from Makhanda in the Eastern Cape claims his design was among the thousands of submissions in 1994 for the new flag. He says he now wants to highlight the true meaning of the flag. Mqhayi claims that the country is slowly deviating from the original ideals and is baffled at how the late Frederick Brownell got all the credit. We did ask the Department of Arts and Culture to be a part of this discussion, but they were unable to come through. Hastings Mqhayi joins me now from our Port Elizabeth studios in the Eastern Cape. A very good morning to you, Mr. Mqhayi. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, sir, and your good listeners.
Why, after 25 years, are you now coming to say that you designed the flag?
Thank you. That's a good question. I never intended to talk about the flag, but the pressure from all angles is actually forcing me to come out.
I mean, you talk of the pressure coming from all angles. Why, after the original designer of the flag has died, that you're only coming out now?
It would be strange for me to know when the person calling himself the designer, when he's going to die. Because the point is, after the death of the person who was a coordinator, I like the way you call him. You say he was the person who was responsible for coordinating the state herald person, not the artist, not the designer. So after his death, people started to have an interest because they were calling him the designer, and seemingly he never questioned that. He allowed them to call them that. And now people are asking, why are you calling yourself a designer? I say, I am not calling myself a designer. I am the designer of the SA flag of South Africa.
Well, the fact that he never questioned that he was called the designer, it's quite interesting that you also never questioned why he's called the designer and why you were not called the designer.
It's not coming from me that I explain. There's a research that was done more than 5 years ago. And there's a page 19 in the book that was actually researched and written by one of the artists that are in the Eastern Cape, Bandile Magibili. The book is called To Be Black. The book itself was exposed to quite a number of platforms like SAFM, Radio 2000, etc., etc. And in this book, on page 19, that's where it's reflected that there was a fraud where the SA designer is actually pushed aside. Here's the page. And this book is not coming only now. And if one Googles, you would see that on Google, there are also many statements that are said about the design of the SA flag, questioned by the people who heard the news from the book itself. And when the media heard that I've done the flag, then it's then that they started to come up and say, why now? And why do you talk about this after so many years? Then I started to talk and I decided, let me come once and for all and state the truth. Whether it's believed or not, it's not going to change that I designed the flag. Worst part of it, if there was something for me to contest, it would be unfair for me to contest with a person who's not there. It's the media that called him the designer. He was coordinating the designs.
So what's the likelihood that South Africans will take you seriously, that you had 25 years to voice your concerns that you're not given due credit as the actual designer of this flag, and now you're only speaking out after the designer or the person who's known as the designer has died? How likely is it that people will take you seriously?
It's not about people taking me serious or not. Firstly, it's about exposing the process of selecting the flag. I only realized after being questioned, so many questions by the researcher, that are you sure that the person who was behind this did a fair play in selecting the flag? Then I said, no, it's not an issue to me whether he did the right thing or wrong. But the most thing that annoyed me, and I decided I must come out and talk, is a spokesperson of DAC who went out to say, I am telling lies and I'm calling myself the designer of the SA flag. Then I felt it's really proper to put that to correction. And how would I know that the chairperson of the selection board was the person that they mentioned? Unfortunately, the people who were responsible for the selection, some of them are still alive. For instance, I'm told Mr. Rolf Meyer is still alive. And our own president, the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, is still alive. They were in the processes of selecting the flag for the country. And it was a response for the call for us as artists to make those designs. And we did not do it for payments or fame or to be known. As I see people now that I want recognition, we're doing it because we are called to come with an input in the reconciliation of the country. And that we did. And President Mandela was satisfied by that. Then later on, we are called people now who did not take part in such a noble cause. And I find myself now talking in studios, explaining that I am the designer, whilst the person who actually fraudulently flawed the processes of procurement, because you can't be a chairperson of a selecting board of selecting the flags, then you turn away 7,000 designs by South Africans who wanted to be part of a noble cause. Then later you say you did not find a single flag from those that were submitted, and 7 days later you come back and say in 3 minutes you designed the flag.
But have you been in touch with the DIC though? Have you spoken to the DIC, and who did you speak with specifically? Is there any paper trail or proof that you actually were in conversation with the Department of Arts and Culture?
Yes, I was told after an interview with SAFM that I must go to DIC and explain, and they're going to research. We did that with Mr. Bandile Magibili 3 months ago. And unfortunately, when we told them that, no, this is not about explaining to DAC what took place. It's about the documentary and also the result to the research that are done. And the main thing was not the flag. It's actually the paintings that I've done during my lifetime that are in this book called To Be Black.
So hang on a second. You only spoke to the Department of Arts and Culture after Mr. Brownell died?
Yes, it's only then that they talk to me, because they come up with the story that I must not be listened to, I'm not telling the truth, because they had Bandile on air and the interviews that he was doing about the book. Then they started to talk about this, but it has been there long before the death was announced.
So you say that the meaning of the flag has been distorted. What do you mean by this? And what is the original meaning in your view?
The DAC person gave an impression that the person who claims to have designed the flag was talking about the Y shape of the flag, and how the daughter of the designer was talking about the meaning of unity from the Y shape, etc., etc. Then I discovered that no, the combination and the research that I did when I was making the flag is not reflected at all. Because if you can show on the screen what I sent you, that the influence of the flag that we have was actually a collection of all the parties that were fighting against each other. The PAC, the ANC, Inkatha, and all organizations. And also the old SA flag is part of that. Then if one looks at the flag, you will see that now, the way you place the flag, the red color is supposed to be on top. I heard that the DAC is saying the explanation was that red is on top because it's how it should go, and there's no explanation for that. And I say the explanation was sent to the people who were selecting, but unfortunately it was not taken serious, because on top you'll find that that red comes from the Communist Party flag, and the Communist Party flag is the one that is reflecting the blood that was spilled during the frontier wars. And
We
on
don't
the
have much
left-hand
time,
side,
unfortunately.
You would see that.
Yeah, we don't have much time, unfortunately. But then what do you want to get out of this whole matter? Do you want the due recognition or the credit that you feel you've been robbed all these years?
It's not about recognition, it's about the truth. And the nation should know the correct history of what took place and associate itself with the correct meaning of the flag.
Mr. Mqhayi, we thank you for your time. That was Hastings Mqhayi, an artist from Makhanda in the Eastern Cape. He says he's the original designer of the South African flag and its meaning is being distorted.